Have you ever looked up into the night sky and noticed a bright dot of light? Now, we're not talking a UFO because that's a totally different type of video. But if it's not blinking, you just witnessed mankind's most incredible example of collaboration, the International Space Station. NASA recognizes this space station as not only a technological achievement, but a human achievement. 16 countries, 10 years building and developing this space station. This would not have been possible without the collaboration of these 16 countries. And the crazy thing is that each piece of the International Space Station was built in space, with each country responsible for a different piece of it. We want that type of collaboration for our students. Now granted, they're not going to be building a $100 billion orbiting lab, well, at least not yet. But we want them to work effectively together. We want them to learn from each other. So how do we do it? Well, in this video, we're going to tackle that question. How can I facilitate cooperative learning in my classroom? Hey there, it's Dawn with Blue Apple. And I'm constantly trying to find ways to make my lessons engaging and relevant while bringing in the content that I need to teach. I mean, who doesn't, right? Well, one way that we can bring that relevancy into our classrooms is through collaborative learning. Students will be working in collaborative structures their entire lives across race, gender, ethnicity, interests, beliefs, and experiences. And there's no denying it. Students that work in groups effectively do better than students that work alone. Students who work in groups are more motivated, they're more engaged, and they're more apt to take and use feedback. So we know that working in groups effectively is important. But how do we do it? How do we create those classrooms of collaboration? Well, in this video, we're going to take a look at just that. We're going to take a look at what it is that you need to know to create that collaborative classroom and specific strategies you can use to make that a reality. The inspiration for this video comes from the book Group Work That Works by Paul Vermette and Cynthia Klein. Check it out, it's a great resource for additional ideas and strategies to get started in your classroom. Before creating that cooperative learning classroom, there's a few things that we need to know. First, teach both cognitive and non-cognitive skills. You know, as teachers, we're really good at teaching the non-cognitive skills intuitively, but not intentionally. Those things such as perseverance, critical thinking, creative thinking, interdependence. But let's change that. Let's make that more intentional. So if you're starting an investigation on bacteria growth, you can say to your students, today we're going to develop an investigation plan on bacteria growth and also develop the skills we need to persevere when get stuck. That way, both the cognitive, the content, that bacterial growth investigation, and the non-cognitive, the perseverance, is clear for the students. And secondly, we need to build small, diverse, and long-term teams. Most often, the most effective teams are built by the teacher. Now, this is something I struggled with because I really like to give my students choice in who they worked with. And I also liked the randomness of assigning group members just to spice things up a bit. But in reality, when students get to pick their own groups, it's really their friends that they're choosing, and it's incredibly exclusionary. And random groups don't always give you the results that you may want. So when you're developing these groups, make sure that you're thinking about diversity and balancing factors such as gender, race, culture, experience, beliefs, strengths. And these teams should be small, no more than 5 students per team, and last for about a week or 2. Now, obviously, this is not something that you're going to be able to build overnight. It's going to take time, so start small. Have the students do a lot more partner work, some think pair shares, or turn-in talks. That's going to set the stage for those robust, long-term collaborative structures. And finally, to facilitate this type of learning, we need to create worthy cooperative learning activities. Those activities require, number 1, positive interdependence. Do the students recognize that they need each other to be successful? Number 2, they need to have clear cognitive and non-cognitive goals. And number 3, they require productive talk, where students are talking to learn. And students can do that through exploration, through asking questions, bringing in prior knowledge, through discovery and construction of meaning. They can also do that through problem solving, product creation, and feedback and validation that they give each other. And remember, students who are engaged in productive talk will be loud. They are going to be talking to learn. They're going to be working effectively together. They're going to be interdependent. And who knows, maybe one of them might be the next developer of the new International Space Station. And remember, to build those collaborative learning classrooms, we need to first teach both cognitive and non-cognitive skills. Second, build small, long-term, diverse teams. And third, create worthy cooperative learning activities. Stay tuned for specific strategies to bring this to life in your classroom. So how can you start building that cooperative learning classroom? Well, the key is to start small. Those long-term teams are not going to happen right away. And one way to do that is through a strategy called Learn by Interview. In this, the students pair up, but it's not just any old interview. You tie this to the content. So you could have one student be the mitochondria of a cell and the other be the nucleus of the cell. Then they would develop interview questions that they would ask each other. And then they would share out what each other had responded. Not only is this a great productive talk strategy, but it also engages the content, that cognitive skill that you want the students to know. Another strategy for starting small is the jigsaw. It's a very common but incredibly powerful strategy. You have students start in their home collaborative groups, and they get to choose then what activity it is they want to do. Each student does. And it might be reading an article or watching a video or in doing an investigation of their choice. They complete that task and then they go into what's called the expert groups, which is made up of students that had done the same activity. They share, they talk, they discuss, and then they come back to their home collaborative groups and they share what they learned. This is an incredible example of productive talk. The students are talking to learn through discovery, through construction of meaning. And I used to use this strategy a lot with my students, and I found this was a huge time saver, especially when we were doing investigations and I wanted to bring in secondary knowledge, and I didn't want them to spend hours reading articles or watching videos or listening to me talk in front of the room. So productive talk, time saver, I think that's a pretty good idea. Another strategy to promote cooperative learning in your class is what's called a collaborative brain sketch. Give each student in the group a plain sheet of paper and a pencil and ask them to draw a picture representing a topic that you're studying. For example, I had my students draw what they thought the Earth looked like 250 million years ago. We were studying the continental drift theory. And then I asked them to take their sketch and pass it to the person to the right. That person then added any additional pictures, labels, descriptions, and kept rotating around the group until everyone got a chance to comment or make additions to the pictures. Once that was done, I had the students then in the groups decide which of those pictures they wanted to use for their group prediction before they got into their investigation, and then I posted them around the room. The students conducted the investigation, and they got the chance after they were done to compare what they did to what they predicted. Not only was this a powerful, collaborative, productive talk activity, it also was incredibly engaging for them to take a look to see what they thought and how maybe their ideas or thoughts had changed from that investigation. So to review, we talked about a few strategies to promote cooperative learning in your classroom. Hopefully you found one or two that you could use in your classroom right away. Check out the download for additional strategies to get that started in your class. If you like what you heard today, please be sure to like and subscribe to the Blue Apple YouTube channel. And remember, keep finding those ways to be awesome, to be that Blue Apple teacher, the teacher that stands out. Thanks so much for tuning in. Bye.